Welcome from the break. We continue our lesson on the logical functions, and the next function we are looking at is the count-if function. Now, if you remember, we have learned that the count-if function allows you to count or tally values in a number of cells that meet a certain criteria. This means that there will be cells in a range, but not all the cells in the range, the values contained in the cells in the range will be counted. It is only cells that contain values that meet a condition or a criteria that will be counted. Those that do not meet that criteria will be left out of the counting. The syntax for the count-if is equals count-if, then you have your argument within the brackets. So you have the range, which refers to the cells from which, the group of cells from which the counting will be done. And then we have the criteria, which is going to be the condition based on which the counting will be done from the range. In stating the criteria syntax, we can have a number of ways. For instance, if you want to count based on a number, then you will state the number as the criteria. As you can see from here, equals count if b2 to b7, 6. It means that cross-check from cells b2 to b7 and count all those cells, all the values in the cells that are 6. So if there is any other value in any cell other than 6, those values will not be counted. We can also set the criteria as a string or text. As you can see in this example, equals count if A1 to A50, Ghana. For instance, if you want to count the number of Ghanaians among the lists of nationalities, okay, then we can set the criteria as Ghana so that all those cells containing other nationalities will be ignored and those that contain Ghana will be counted. Then we can also set the criteria to a cell reference. Here, this means that whatever the user will enter into the cell reference will be the criteria based on which the counting will be done. So anything beyond or aside what is entered in the cell will be ignored. The criteria can also be set as a Boolean expression. As an example, if let's say you have a series of numbers in cells A1 to A10 and you want only cells containing values that are higher than 5 to be counted, then you can set it to that Boolean value greater than 5, as you can see. Remember, once it is a Boolean value, it needs to be enclosed in the double quotes. Let us have an example or practical experience. All right. Let's say these are the students in a school. with their houses attached, and the point, let's say each week a student accrues a point for his or her house. So these are the points accrued for each house by each student here. The gender of the students are stated here. Now let's say we want to identify how many are males, how many of the students are males, and how many of them are females by the gender that is stated in this range. How do we go about that? You notice that this is text, so our criteria will be text or string. So in this case, we will use the count if, because the counting will be done based on a condition. If the condition is met, then those cells containing the value set will be counted, as you have already learned. So equals count if, then bracket open, then we select the range, which is B4 to B22, then we bring comma, then we have to define the criteria. And let's say here we want to count only cells that contains the M value. So we will enclose M in double quotes, and then we will close the brackets. When we are done, we press the enter key. So based on the criteria we gave the program, the computer has counted only those cells containing M, leaving the others out. Okay, let us count the number of females in the school as given to us in the table. So here we type equals count if into brackets, then we select the range, we bring our comma, then we need to state our criteria, and here we want to count only females. So we put F in double quotes, then we press enter. So the system counts the cells containing F and leaves out any other cell that doesn't contain F. Alright. We can also count based on a value. For instance, we would want to know the number of students that belong to each house. Okay, so for instance, we want to know number of students who belong to house 1 according to the houses assigned here to the students, so that only those values, only cells containing values 1 will be counted for house 1 and the others will be ignored. How do we state it? It is the criteria is a value. So we type equals count if into brackets, then the range will be the houses here, which are contained in cell C4 to C22, comma, then what are we using as a criteria? It should count only those in house 1. Once it is a number, we do not enclose it in double quotes. We just state the number, then close the bracket, then press the enter key. And the computer is able to count the number of cells containing 1, which tells us that there are 5 students in house 1. Okay, let us count the number of students in house 2. So we will type equals count if into bracket the range, comma, the criteria is what? Count only those with the number 2. Then you close the bracket, you press the enter key. So this tells us that there are 6 students in house 2. We do same for house 3. Count if into bracket the range, comma, which house? Count only those containing the number 3. So we close the bracket, then press enter. Only 2 students are in house 3 according to the list given. Let's do for house 4. Count if into bracket followed by the range, comma, 4, close bracket, and then you press the enter key. So house 4 has 6 students. We also learned that we can also count by a Boolean value. For instance, we want to know the number of students who are we want to count only students who are in house 3 and house 4 only. We can state the function by typing count if into bracket, then we select the range, comma, then followed by the criteria, but because it is a Boolean, we have to put it in double quotes. So count only cells that contains values above 2, or we can say that is greater than or equal to 3. It will give us the same results. Okay, then we close the bracket. Okay, so count cells containing numbers either greater than or equal to 3. Then you press the enter key. Then those cells containing 3 and 4 are counted and given to us. So that is it with the count function. So if let's say you have a list of students, let's say hundreds of students, and your headmaster or headmistress or CS or any other school official request for certain statistics, you can easily generate those statistics without going to count individuals cells one after the other. No, you can generate using the Excel program for that purpose. Alright. Another logical function is the SUMIF function. The SUMIF function allows you to sum values in a selection of cells depending on a certain criteria. So the cells that meet the criteria will be added. and those that do not meet the criteria are disregarded. The syntax for the sum if is equal sum if, then you bring the range, then followed by the criteria, and then followed by the sum range. Okay, so you should notice that here the system will be checking the criteria on the range. Okay, and then if the criteria on the range is met, then the cells containing the values as set by the criteria will be cross-checked, and then the cells that are on the other range, which we call the sum range, which find themselves on the same rows as those containing the values in the range, will now be added to find the summation that we want. The criteria syntax is given to us as follows. Look at this one. If we are setting a boolean, in this case for a boolean or a number, we will not have the sum range. Okay, so we have, for instance, sum if b2 to b 25, and the criteria is sum only cells containing values above 5. So those below 5 and 5 itself will be ignored. Then we come to the next criteria, how we set the next criteria. For criteria that are set to text, here we have the range, we have the criteria, and then we have the sum range. So in this case, for instance, A2 to A5, all the cells will be cross-checked, and then the cells containing fruits will be identified. Then the system will then check the cells on the same row with the cells in A2 to A7 that meet the criteria, and add those values. Okay, add the values in the sum range which are on the same row as those cells that meet the criteria. So if, let's say, there are rows that has values which does not meet the criteria set in the range, then those values will not be added. Only those of the cells that meet or whose values contain fruits on the range will be added. All right. Then another will be equals sum if, where we are using dates. So here it says that cross-check to see that all cells whose dates are above May 31st, okay, 2020, cross-check the list here, and when you identify those cells, trace their equivalent, trace trace the row on which those those dates are to the sum range. Okay, so trace the row, and then on the column that contains D2 to D11. Pick those values that meet the criteria set here and then add them up. Alright, let me show you an example. When you look over here, you want to know the total points accrued by males and the total points accrued by females. So here what we will be asking the computer to do, if let's say we want to know the total points accrued by males, we will ask the computer to cross-check this list and identify cells containing males. Okay, and then when it identifies the cells containing males, then it should look at this row, and then any value in this column that are on the same row as those meeting the criteria set, those values should be added, and the values that contain the cells that contain values who are not on the same rows as those set on by the criteria should be ignored. Okay, so here for males, this one will be taken, that will be taken, that will be taken, and this will be taken. These, because they are not males, the values here over here will be ignored, and this and those that we have identified will be picked. So let's type it. We are using the sum if, so we type equals sum if into bracket. This is the range. Okay, and what is the criteria? The criteria is that it should only identify cells that contain M. And when it is able to identify cells that contain M, it should then cross-check the sum range, that is from D4 to D22. Check values that are on the same row as those that meet the that meet the criteria on the range that we have stated, and add those values for us. Right, so let's close the bracket and then press enter. So here we are told that the male students accrued 15 points. Okay, so it cross-checked and picked only the values of of the male students and ignored those of the females. Let us do same for the females. Equals sum if into bracket the range, comma, then followed by the criteria. Here we want the system to check cells containing females, and then when it identifies the cells containing females, it should trace those cells to the equivalent cells on the sum range, which is D4 to D22. So the cells contain that the cells that meet the criteria will be traced to the the sum range cells, and then the values attached to or the values that are found on the same row with the cells containing values that meet the criteria are summed up for us. Press the enter key. There we have it. Okay, let us do for the houses. So the same thing here, equals sum if the houses. So we are doing for house 1, so cross check for house 1, and then if you find house 1, trace the value in this column and then pick those values and add them up. Okay, close and press enter. So the points accrued by house 1 student is 17 points. Same for sum if range here 2, then the sum range is this. Close, enter. Because sum if range, oh sorry, because sum if brackets open range comma 3, then sum range is this. Close, enter. Same applies here. Sum if the range is this, criteria is 4, then close. So if any cell encountered does not meet the criteria, if any cell encountered contains any value that does not contain the value set as the criteria, its equivalent value over here will not be added. So only those that meet the criteria whose values from here will be included for the summation. I hope you understand now. Alright, so we are done with the sum if function. And we are, for that matter, we are also done with the logical functions. We come to the next set of functions, which is the lookup and reference functions. Under lookup and reference functions, we are going to learn only the VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP functions. The purpose of the VLOOKUP is that it is used to find and retrieve data from a specific column in a cell. And for the HLOOKUP, it is used to find and retrieve data from a specific row in a table. Let's say, for instance, if let's say you have a list of people or a list of items, okay, and you want to identify those items, you don't need to scan through with your eyes to identify those items. The VLOOKUP and the HLOOKUP helps us to identify those items, and if there's any associated content that we want to access, then we can access that content as well. So there's a further explanation of the VLOOKUP here. Okay, so the VLOOKUP function in Excel is a tool for looking up a piece of information in a table or data set and extracting some corresponding data or information. In simple terms, the VLOOKUP function says the following to Excel. Look for this piece of information, for instance, bananas, and in this data set, which is a table, and tell me some corresponding information about it. So let's say if you identify bananas, then identify for me the bananas price. So you have the system will first of all identify the banana before it identifies the price of the banana. I hope you understand. It's like the sum if and then the count if. Look for these particular cells, and when you identify those cells, look for their equivalent cells in the other column and pick their values and count them for me or sum them for me. So it's similar to what we did previously, but in this situation we are just trying to identify just specific information. But if we prefer to perform any other functions on them or with them, then we can do so. The syntax for the VLOOKUP is given to us as follows: equals VLOOKUP into bracket the value for which it will be sought or searched for, the table containing the value, then the column index will be which column contains the value or the results that should be output when its equivalent value is identified. And then we have the range lookup. So here we say the value here is the value to look for in the first column of a table. Then the table from which to retrieve a value, that is the table we are going to retrieve the value from. And then column index refers to the column in the table from which to retrieve a value, here the output value. Are you getting me, please? Not the value you are looking for, but what? The output value. And then we have the range lookup, and this one is optional, but it's better you state it true. And when you define true, it means you are looking for approximate match, or false, you want the exact match. So for true, you use 0 and 1 for false. Alright, so please kindly enter this information in Excel for me. Pause the video and enter them in there. But if you remember, I think you already calculated these things earlier in one of the practical sessions. Okay, I think it was under formulas. Okay, so identify the spreadsheet, and then if you identify, then let's move on. But if you don't, then please retype this information, and then let's practice. Pause the video and type. I have already done so, so I'll go to the sheet containing it. Okay, here we have it. So this is the information. Let's say you have about 100 workers and you are asked to identify the net salary for a particular person. Under normal circumstances, you scroll through the list, identify the person, then you have to trace the net salary of that person, and that will be tedious for that number of employees or people. That is where the VLOOKUP comes in. With the VLOOKUP, it helps us identify data as a name that we have entered here from this table, okay, and then it will check in the column named, okay. So this is the column named, and then output the value on the same row with the data that has been what? Identified. So here we have this, we are looking for this particular person, and when you identify the person, look at the column index. This is the column index. Return for me the value in this column index that is on the same row as the data that you have found. That is the purpose of the VLOOKUP. So let us try our hands on that. So equals, we said the syntax is VLOOKUP into bracket. Here, what are we looking for? For instance, we will type the information here, so we will select this cell, comma. Then what table should the information we have identified, we are going to type here, be picked from? It should be picked from this table, so we will select the entire table, okay. Then we will type comma. Then what value should be returned, from which column should the value associated with the information we are going to type or data we are going to type in this cell be displayed? We want the value from this column, so we will count the columns, column 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the information we want displayed should be on column 6, so we will type the number 6, and then for the range lookup we will type 0, okay. Then we will close the bracket. So we are saying look for whatever information we will type in this cell from this table, and then when you find the information, please trace the information or the value in column 6 that is on the same row with the information or data that we have typed in here, and return that information or information of value for us. Are you getting me? Please look for this person, and when you see this person, check in column 6 and return the value that is on the same row with the information here, okay. Display that information in this particular cell, okay. So I'll press the enter. You have this error message. You will be learning about error messages soon, because for this one it means you have not typed any information here. So for instance, if I type Yao Kese here, okay, then I press enter, you see that the net salary of Yao Kese has displayed. What I sought for was that it should look for Yao Kese, and when it sees Yao Kese, it should go to column 6 and then display the value on the same row with Yao Kese in this cell. Please, I hope you get it. So that is what it has done now. If I clear this and then I type, let's say, Janet Appiah in here, you see that Janet Appiah's net salary is displayed for us. Okay. So if let's say you have many students and your headmaster says, please can you give me the date of birth of a particular student. You don't need to scroll through, or probably he wants to see whether the student has passed or failed. You don't need to go through the entire list. You can use the VLOOKUP to return the information by identifying the person's name and then telling the computer that when you see the person's name, pick the promotion status, whether he has passed or failed, or whether he has been promoted or not promoted, and display that information here for me. All right. For instance, we can also have, for this VLOOKUP can be useful in so many fields. Let's say, for instance, you have a shop, and in the shop you sell these products, okay, and these are the prices of the products. So let's say this is just a simple list, but if let's say you have a very big shop and you are selling so many products, okay, and you have stated each of the products price list. It doesn't mean that you have to, if somebody picks a product, you have to pick the list and then cross check, okay, we granny boy is sorry, okay, what is the price of this one? It will be time wasting. So what you can do is that you can make use of the VLOOKUP. So here you can identify the products and then identify the price, and then you can easily type the quantity that the person has bought, and then you find the amount that the person would have to pay for the quantity that he or she has bought. Using, first of all, you have to look up the value, okay? You have to use the VLOOKUP for that purpose. So for instance, we can do the same here. We want to be identifying the prices in this cell. So we will type the product here, and then the price of the product should be identified and displayed here for us. So it was VLOOKUP bracket open. Then what are we going to look up? We will type that in this cell. Okay, then what table should it be taking it from? It should be taking it from this table, A1, A14 to B19. Then comma. What should be the column index? That is, from what column should the value be returned when the data is found? So you see that there are only two columns here, and it is from this column that we want the value returned from. So we have column 1 and 2, so we will type 2 here, then comma, then we type 0. We want approximate, then we close. Okay, then we press the enter key. We've not typed anything in here, that is why. So okay, let's say tomatoes. Type tomatoes in here, enter. So the unit price for tomatoes is what? Is 50. So if let's say the person has bought 8 boxes of tomatoes and the unit price is 50, how much does the customer have to pay? So you know that by simple math it will be this multiplied by that, and then we press the enter. Then we know that he has to pay 400 cedis for the quantity that he has bought. So let us copy this formula here, okay, and then copy this one as well. Then let's try and do some totals here. Totals. So the totals here to be sum, okay, summation of all these, then we close. Okay, all right, so the next product that the customer is buying is, let's say, salt. Okay, so the unit price of salt is given to us as what? 10. How much or how many sachets of salt is the customer buying? Let's say he's buying 7. Then we press enter. So you see the essence of the VLOOKUP. So it identifies the price, then you create a formula that will compute the total. Let's type the next. Let's say the person is buying garden X. Okay, let's say he's buying 10 bowls, and each bowl is costing I made a mistake. You know that I copied this formula. You know that once I copy the formula, it means that the table ranges here changes when I copy down. So this place will be how do you call it, A16 to A21, but this should be absolute, so that all the time it will always be referencing from this table. But when you check here, A21 doesn't contain anything. This one doesn't also contain anything. Okay, so let's make this absolute over here. You know what I'm talking about, so I will not re-explain. So you put a dollar in front of A here. You put a dollar in front of 14. Put dollar here. Then put dollar here as well. Press enter. Now let's copy. Okay, let's copy. Then let's type garden X. Yeah, I think I also omitted the X. The spelling was also wrong, so press enter. Yeah. So the price is 45, and then it gives me the computation. The next product being bought is, let's say, pepper. Okay, what quantity is being bought? 5. Then we have our total sales computed here for us. So for instance, you can design something simple for shop owners with the Excel program, so that after these things have been the prices have been identified, after the products have been entered here, and then the computations are done, the person can just select this and then print it out as a receipt for the customer. Okay. There's also a feature in Excel that allows us to create a drop-down list in Excel. For instance, instead of typing each product by itself, we can create a drop-down list, and then we just select the products from there. Okay, so for instance here, let me copy this one so that it will be the same. Good. Let me delete this. So here the table is the same, then the column index is the same. Sorry, we are using this table, so you see that the table is the same here. So how do we create the drop down list? What we do is we select the cell and then we click data, okay, and then we come and click data validation, okay, come and click data validation. Now when you come, initially this will be empty. When you come, it will be like this. The moment you, let me start all over. So you select the cell to contain the drop down list, then you come and click data, then you click data validation, then the data validation dialog box appears. Then you come to the allow box, click the drop down button, and then you choose list, okay, and then when you choose the list, then you come to the source, you click this button here, the source button, and then when the drop down the data validation dialog box changes to this, you come and select the items that should be included in the list. So these are the items to be included in the list, okay. Then after you selected the items, then you click this button here again to redisplay the entire validation dialog box, and then to finalize you click the OK button. Alright, now we have created a drop down list, so we can click this drop down button here, and then we will choose our product. Once we choose it, you notice that the price is looked up from the table and then displayed. Then we can type our quantity, then the computation is done. Let us copy this one here, okay. So let us select the next one, which is onion. Select this, click this, let's say garden eggs. So here typing and making mistakes will not happen because it will pick them for you. 7, okay. Then let's say salt is being bought, and then we have let's say buy 4, then it is computed for you. So that is how we can create a drop down list. We use the data validation dialog box to create a drop down list in Excel. Alright. The opposite of the VLOOKUP is the HLOOKUP. HLOOKUP is an Excel function that is used to look up and retrieve data from a specific row in a table. The H in HLOOKUP stands for horizontal, and this is where lookup values appear in the first row of the table, moving horizontally to the right. Okay. The syntax for HLOOKUP is as follows: equals HLOOKUP, then you have the argument, the value to look for, the table to look from, and then the column index to pick the value from, and then followed by the range lookup, as you have already identified under VLOOKUP. So again, pause the video and type this information, and when you are done, also type this one. But for want of time, We are going on. You go to the Excel file. I've already typed it here. So for instance, you see that the product list is typed in the rows. In the rows, instead of it being typed in the column as in one column as this one. No, they are typed in one row. The quantity is typed in one row. The prices are typed in one row. So it's just the what should I say, direct opposite of the VLOOKUP. So we can do the same thing here. So to look out for the price for each product here, so what will happen is it will look at for the product in this row, and then the value that we are looking for will be identified from the next row. That means the how do you call it, the column index. So here the row index. So this one will be our row index. So the value in the same column as the criteria being sought for will be the value that will be returned. Okay, so we will type here equals h lookup into bracket, look out for this, comma, from which table? This table. Okay, what is the row index? There are 3 rows here, so pick the value from 1, 2, 3, from the third row. Okay, so 3. And then the range, look up, what do you want? 0. Close. So when it identifies whatever we are looking for, check the third row, and then the data that is in the same column as the criteria being searched for should be displayed, as we have already discussed under the VLOOKUP. So enter. So let's say identify the price for salt. Okay, press enter, and the price for salt is what? 19. Okay, identify the price for onion. Okay, I've not copied this. Let me copy this one. Let me make this absolute. Absolute. Enter. Now I can copy. Good. Then you can type, excuse me, the quantity and the entire formula here to compute the total cost, and so on and so forth. Okay, it's almost an hour, so let's take another break, and then we shall take the last part for functions.